One of the best-known writers of the 19th century is certainly John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, uncontested father of the modern fantasy as well as one of the main experts of the Middle Age ever existed. Over the last 15 years, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit underwent a cinematographic adaptation by Peter Jackson, who created two different sagas. For this aim, I will try to analyze in an objective manner the adaptation method carried out by the film director, although it is necessary to examine in depth some characteristics of the writer's life. Tolkien was born on January 3, 1892 in Bloemfontein, South Africa. He got a degree at the Oxford University and took part at the First World War in France in quality of rifleman. Then, he came back to France and became Master of Arts. Tolkien's first civilian job after World War I was the Oxford English Dictionary, in which he joined in quality of writing assistant. In 1924 was made a professor there, but in 1925 he returned to Oxford as a professor of Anglo-Saxon at Pembroke College. In 1945 he moved to Merton College, Oxford, becoming the Merton Professor of English Language and Literature, in which post he remained until his retirement in 1959. Tolkien's works were strongly influenced by Anglo-Saxon literature and mythology. He completed The Lord of the Rings in 1948. Though a direct sequel to The Hobbit, it addressed an older audience. The most decisive part of the author's lifetime that brings him to be considered one of the 20th century's top writers is actually his life as creator not only of fairy tales, legends and novels, but even an entire ever-changing world through the ages, from its genesis, its maturity, till its fall. He invented cultures, different peoples, with different customs and traditions, even deeply detailed languages. Masterpieces were published in many world parts and translated in many languages, selling millions of copies. Tolkien's works derive from a traditional material, ancient and medieval for what concerns the classical figures, such as the hero, the black enemy, the settings, the multiple races, the colorful world of Arda, and the themes, the most evident, the epic clash between good and evil. We could state that perhaps he didn't discover anything new, but he managed to hit in the heart, fascinate, frighten and excite millions of readers thanks to the creation of a world which is accurate in every detail. It allows us to dream to be part of that magnificent universe. The book is divided into 19 chapters, among which 18 take place in 2941 of the Third Age and one in 2949. The plot is quite simple, and for this reason the novel is considered a children's fairy tale. One day the wizard Gandalf, together with 13 dwarves, goes to visit Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit living in the Hobbiton, located in the Shire. He explains to the little creature that those dwarves come from Erebor and their chief's name is Thorin Oakenshield. They aim to reconquer Erebor. They reign beneath the Lonely Mountain, which was conquered several years earlier by the terrific dragon Smaug. Gandalf hires Bilbo in quality of burglar due to his deceitfulness, typical of the hobbits. As reward, the dwarves promise to pledge him a 14th of their enormous treasure guarded by the dragons beneath the Lonely Mountain. Bilbo, as every hobbit, is a quiet and calm individual. He loves to sleep and leads a sedentary lifestyle. So at the beginning of the story he is quite loath to leave, but at the end he is persuaded by Gandalf to follow the dwarves' fellowship in that strange adventure, driven by the wise wizard advices. After many ordeals, among which the discovery of the magic ring of invisibility stolen to Gollum through a cheat and many other adventures, he finally gets to the Lonely Mountain to defeat the dragon. After 9 years, Peter Jackson directed the entire trilogy of the Middle-earth. The film director tried to adapt this masterpiece as already done with The Lord of the Rings, with the single difference that he fills the plot with details, telling about facts, situations, settings sometimes unknown or even inexistent in the original novel, but thanks to this he managed to make 3 different movies. It is possible to notice in the previous movies how CGI was in experimentation phase and was employed only in specific scenes otherwise impossible to film. not only due to a set of problems represented by the excessive amount of background actors, but also in matter of settings. On the other hand, in the production of the Hobbit movie, the computer-generated imagery together with dioramas, models, and also scales models made by the Weta Digital were largely employed to satisfy every minimum scene need to represent in the best way possible the world of Arda. The Hobbit trilogy was the first saga entirely filmed in high frame rate 3D, a directing method through which it's possible to make a movie in 48 or 60 frames per second. In comparison with the standard 24, thanks to the CGI, it is possible to manage in a more effective way the post-production. According to the Lord of the Rings movie success, the director, due to narration and marketing-connected reasons, chose to edit and interpret the wide and specific literary narration by Tolkien with the goal of making it suitable to a new film trilogy connected to the first one through facts. Characters still loved by the audience appeared in the first 3 movies. One of the most evident differences between the book and the movie is certainly represented by the presence of Legolas, acted by Orlando Bloom. His character is more instinctive and impulsive than the one of the first saga. He shows to be extremely less elfin than how he should be. Although in the books there is no Legolas, Peter Jackson chose to bring him into the new movie due to his charm and his extraordinary action dynamic style. The maybe most evident controversy by Peter Jackson was the Bilbo Baggins personification as Hobbit. Meanwhile, Tolkien introduces us the Hobbit as a pacific and lazy individual who is accustomed to spend its entire daytime eating, smoking his pipe and sleeping, and who accepts to join the dwarves' fellowship more due to a sequence of events than due to his personal intention. Peter Jackson gives us a more active idea of the Hobbit, picks him up like a venture character who gets to impose himself to the other main characters of the story, standing out for his intuitions, his cold blood, and for extraordinary sliceness. The director's choice is clearly justifiable. His Bilbo will be the main character of a trilogy, so it is essential that he will be strong and ready for the action. It is so conceived in a different way comparing to Tolkien's one. One more element result of the director's mind is the creation of the character Tauriel, acted by Evangeline Lilly, the Sylvan elf who makes fall in love the dwarf Kili, acted by Hayden Turner. The approach of those two figures tends to represent the impossibility of the racial love among elves and dwarves, two races that, according to Tolkien's narration, are in conflict by the ancient times. Another crucial difference is represented by Bard, idealized by Peter Jackson as the protector of the people, the hero waiting for show his own capacities and courage. In the book, this is a completely different character, so that Tolkien defines him as harsh and even rebel. Excessive weight is given to the dark arrow which he uses to kill Dragon Smaug. In the movie it is a symbolic tool, whilst in the book it is just a common arrow that hits the slit among the dragon scales. The differences between the movie and the book are multiples and it could be complicated to enumerate them. In addition, the acceptability of the movie's peculiarities are up to the viewer. It is important to underline that it's impossible to deny the ability of Peter Jackson about the adaptation he made up, whereas the enormous amount of details, settings and characters manages to excite and entertain the audience, never being heavy, providing a dynamic, engaging and emotional scene succession. For this reason, I strongly recommend the audience to plunge into the extraordinary world, result of a great writer's mind and seen by a great director's eyes.